I have thought since he made the statement, and I thought more of it, especially in the last 2 years when you see the full maturation of what that government over time is at. It was a very strange thing when, he wasn't then Prime Minister, he made this sociological observation. He said a couple of things. He said, Canada has no core values, and secondly, Canada is a post-national state. Now, whether he even understood fully intellectually that's a very strange statement. We have no core values, and the idea of a Canadian identity outside of some fuzz on the top of a head somewhere. How can a person who believes that we have no core values be a Prime Minister?
Well, I can't answer that question. I sure as heck didn't put him there. But I'll go back to what I just said. It serves his ideological objective of wanting the government to control everything. If he can say, well, the country has no identity worth defending, and therefore it is a blank slate at best. And if it's a blank slate, then he can write anything he wants onto that slate, right? And that is effectively what he's done by saying Canada has no history, by deleting our key symbols from passports, by trying to delete
deep apologies for everything,
trying to delete key parts of our history and our past. By doing that, by saying Canada has either a wretched history or no history at all, that he is left to control the future, and that comes right out of Orwell. He who controls the past controls the future.
Does it also indicate why, at least again from my view, so much of Canadian policy at the higher levels, and I'm speaking only of the government, comes out of international agendas? He's wedded to that lunatic COP performance. There's the COP conference.
Okay.
He's also wedded to the WEF. Is Christopher Freeland still on the board of that thing?
Yeah.
And by the way, here, go back to Guilbeault, is he still with some Chinese guy? We can't have cabinet ministers functioning in the altitudes of international organizations while they are cabinet ministers.
I think we need to bring home control of our democracy. Here we have a prime minister who has, one, allowed Beijing-controlled police stations to proliferate in our country, two, allowed the Iranian-controlled terrorist group, the IRGC, to legally operate and have 700 out of its agents freely roaming our country, terrorizing our people. And three, import his ideological agenda from other countries and other places. You know, that is who he is and what he believes. I think that's when I say bring it home. Let's bring home control of our democracy back to our people so that we can decide for ourselves what we want.
I'm finding that through talks with parents and people who have children in school, I know that schools at that level is not federal, but we're all Canadians. What's going on in the Canadian school system that so many school boards, they present themselves as activists in what we, in some derision, refer to as the woke agenda, sexuality politics, ethnic politics, identity politics. These things have captured the entire attention of whole school boards who are very radical in pushing even against the arguments to it. I talk, in a sense like you, I have talked to so many parents in schools in Ontario. These are rich schools by any standard. And the parents say, we don't know what to do. If we could take, this is in Catholic schools, city school, if we could take our children somewhere else, they actually fear sending their kids to school because they don't know the ideologies or the political preferences that are now substituting for classroom instruction. It's a scandal. What do you think of it?
I think the school should get back to teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic, and we should let parents raise kids and transmit their values to children. And when Trudeau stepped in and stuck his nose in the policy decisions of Premier Scott Moe and Premier Higgs to restore parental rights, I told him he should butt out and let provinces run schools and parents raise kids. And that's what I believe. Parents should be able to decide. And parents should have obviously know what's going on in the lives of their kids.
But isn't that, again, one of the little index markers of where we are? the idea that schools and some principals, and certainly some school boards, not almost, with full arrogance saying, if young children come to us with one specific kind of problem, the sexual confusions that obtain, we think we should be able to keep it to ourselves. Where did they get the gall to say that they're superior to the parents?
Not from me.
I know it's not from you, but they get support from a lot of quarters. And how is that stopped? This is not a made-up thing.
We have to respect parental rights, and I stand for parental rights.
And you have to
because I trust parents to make the right decision for their kids, and I know that parents this is a key area where Justin Trudeau and I just disagree. He believes that he should be able to impose his radical ideology on other people's kids by demanding provinces implement his thinking and calling anyone who disagrees, whether they're Muslim, Jewish, or Christian parents, hateful. And so I think he should butt out and let parents raise kids.
Well, the last question on that, the other thing about the agenda that is in the schools, and I have too much information not to be completely solid on it, is displacing the function of the school. We are to train minds, teach people to write, read, and science, and also some of the social virtues. But identity politics pursued with an intensity, it overwhelms everything else. And if you haven't gone to the right washroom, or if you said the wrong word to the wrong person, suddenly this is it. I don't see a month dedicated to arithmetic, a month dedicated to history, but 10,000 months for LGBT or some other foreign cause.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, I can't promise to fix that one.
No,
I'm running for Prime Minister, so I won't be able to fix educational problems. But I think we need to get back to common sense on all of these things. And like on these broader social questions, if I were to create a political party from scratch, it would be called the Mind Your Own Damn Business Party. People can make the decisions of who they marry, who they date, how they live their lives, but also how they raise their kids. And I think if we had governments at all levels that live and let live, that had a policy of live and let live, a true policy of live and let live, which ironically is what liberals used to say 25 years ago, then we would have so much more social peace because people could make their own decisions and come to their own conclusions and raise their own families with their own values. And I think by and large, parents are human, they'll obviously make mistakes, but by and large, at the end of the day, parents and people will make the right decisions for their own lives and their own families. And that's why my role as a Prime Minister is not going to be to impose my values on other people. It's to get out of their faces and run a competent government. They want a government that can deliver a passport, not a government that runs their lives.
The rough, I think in many cases contemptuous, and possibly not even in his jurisdiction, but his attitudes towards the West, farmers wanting some relief, the oil and gas industry is a 20-year story, these are not quite my class. I've often said that if oil and gas were in Ontario or Quebec, that service stations would be decorated like basilicas. Is it because it's Alberta and Saskatchewan? Is there an animosity there unexpressed that is getting expressed through politics?
I have no doubt that he has total disdain for Saskatchewan and Alberta. His father did, surely. His father gave him the finger.
I remember.
I think that, but I think he has a lot of disdain for many people. He attacks parents who object to his gender ideology as hateful. He attacks small businesses as tax cheats. He attacks grandmothers who heat their homes as polluters. He attacks anyone who disagreed with his authoritarian agenda over the last several years as a small fringe minority. And to his credit, he took that back and apologized for it. But I think he meant it. And I think he looks at anyone that is not prepared to cede their money and their freedom to his power, he looks upon with contempt.
This is just a kind of a particular question, but it's very bothersome. The alliance between Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Singh, it may be correct, but it isn't right. They've gutted the Parliament of the one great function that it has, that if it wants a confidence vote, it can get it. They've taken that out of the parliamentary. Why is Mr. Singh doing this? Does he have any concern with his own NDP party now that he subdued them to the Liberal brand? And is there any way you can combat this particular, they don't like the word coalition, that's guaranteeing Trudeau's minority government the powers of the majority?
Oh, they are a coalition, a costly coalition, and frankly, Jagmeet Singh has forgotten who he works for. Because I can tell you the union workers in the lumber mills of Vancouver Island or in the mines of Northern Ontario that elected NDP members of Parliament did not send their MP to go and work for Justin Trudeau, yet that is what has happened. And so good, hardworking union families that like to hunt and drive a truck and raise their families are now represented by an MP that supports a government that's taking away hunting rifles, taxing people's energy, and stripping away our the very resource jobs that give paychecks to those people. So Jagmeet Singh and his NDP members are literally working against the people they represent in this coalition. But the good news is they'll be able to fire them and elect a common sense local MP that will work for them.
I believe it was Freeland who said that the economy is the environment and the environment is the economy, which is pure lunacy. How many things have we lost because that absorbed all of the attention? Secondly, it led to, I'm calling it, it led to the denigration and dismissal as almost a second-rate confederation to the provinces of Saskatchewan and Alberta. What other national government has gutted one of the main economic performers of the entire country to appease, I think, a fake international agenda?
What the Prime Minister has done is, first of all, he's achieved nothing on the environment. Nothing. His emissions continue to go up, and he's missed all of his target but one, and that was the year we were locked down for COVID. And he's on track to miss his targets for the year 2030. And not only has he attacked the Alberta-Saskatchewan economy, he's attacked your home province's economy, Newfoundland and Labrador. He's basically trying to shut down the energy sector there. I do believe we should reduce emissions. My view, though, is it's by creating an abundance of alternative energy through the rapid yet safe approval of nuclear power. We have the biggest supply of uranium in the world. We have the best nuclear engineers because we invented the can-do. We get 50% of our energy from nuclear in Ontario. Why can't we speed up affordable, clean nuclear power here at home? Why can't we allow Quebec to build more hydroelectric dams? Why don't we unleash more energy production and create energy abundance rather than more poverty?
This is a particular question. The current Minister of the Environment was originally a Greenpeace aficionado. He's the guy who climbed the CN Tower. He's a full-ranked activist. That's fine. You can be an activist on any issue that you wish. But do you get an activist fanatic, as I will describe him, and stick him in charge of probably economically the most significant portfolio we have? And I found, for example, when he was over, I think it was in Japan, at the most recent gigantic fest, some numbers are, Dubai, that there was something like 97,000 people. That's not a conference. I mean, they could ship Dubai over here easier than sending the people over there. But we had Canadian policy reference to a Canadian province announced by a Canadian federal minister in Dubai. What's happening to Confederation? Should that man be in that portfolio, one? And the idea that international policies are determining Canadian ones, not the reverse. This is a strange thing.
He is a fanatic.
Yeah.
He's completely bonkers. He's upset, but the reality is it wouldn't matter who Trudeau put there because Trudeau is just as radical. He wants to quadruple the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. He wants to shut down our biggest net exporting industry. He is against natural gas exports. Yep. He doesn't even support nuclear energy. He wants to double up the approval process for hydroelectric dams. So you start to go down the list of all the sources of energy that Trudeau opposes, including energy that is emissions free, and you're left with almost nothing. This is one of the reasons why people have been so impoverished over the last 8 years of Trudeau's reign.
Does he understand? This is not a sarcastic question, but it is a real one. Does he understand? Does he have the intellectual competence to understand the effect of these policies, or is it just something that lodged in his brain as a younger person? This is a great cause, and he latched himself to it without the examination.
Justin Trudeau's. You have to understand Justin Trudeau. You have to understand his only two objectives. One is that the government should control everything, and two, that he should control the government. Those are his only two principles. And so when you understand that that's what motivates him, then everything else makes sense. He has policies. He wants to control your money, so he raises your taxes. He wants to control your speech, so he censors the internet. He wants to control your life and now your death, because he wants to bring in medical assistance in dying for people whose only condition is depression. So he wants to have the state have the ability
depression and very long waits in emergency rooms.
Very long, miserable waits in emergency rooms to basically provide people with a lethal injection. That is a very radical agenda. But it all goes back to his overriding and very radical ideology, which, again, has two principles. The government should control everything, and he should control the government.
Why are we so obsessed, or why have we been driven to be so obsessed, that policies that hurt everyday people, that have no function whatsoever in solving the totality of the problem that they address? We have been dancing through this carbon dioxide, they call it pollution, for 8 years. It is the dominant passion of this government, and what has it done? It has driven Alberta citizens, and you must know this, to some very strange thoughts about Confederation. It's a strange half the population out west. Trans Mountain went from, 6 or 7 million once the government took it over, to 30 million. Doug Ford and Trudeau spent $30 billion to build EV plants. I mean, it constricts or it directs policies in so many areas for no effect. That's my problem.
Well, I would point out that almost none of the actions you just described will actually reduce emissions in the first place. Reducing emissions is not Trudeau's true objective. His true objective is to raise taxes and take control over people's economic lives. So, do I think that we should do our part? Yes, we should. Should we drive our economic production to more polluting jurisdictions like China or Venezuela? No, of course not. That actually contributes more to the problem. I believe that we can do more to address the issue by repatriating production here to our cleaner, greener, more ethical industries in this country. In other words, bring it home. Rather than exporting our jobs and industry to more polluting jurisdictions, which is what Trudeau has done. So I will bring home clean production of all sorts of minerals and of our oil and gas so that we can do it cleaner, better, and more ethically, rather than giving the jobs to foreign polluters.